Dr. Friedemann Schaub, thank you for joining the Uplifting Content podcast today. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you for having me on your program.
My pleasure. I was saying just before we got started, this is something that I need to hear today because I'm definitely dealing with my own fears and anxiety. So this will be a good conversation. I like to kick off these interviews by asking the guest just to share a bit about what you do and how you kind of came into doing this work, how that came about, please.
Well, I certainly came in a roundabout way to this, what I'm doing now, because I was in cardiology and I was basically heading towards just, retiring as a cardiologist at some point. But then a panic attack woke me up and told me, well, this is not exactly what you're supposed to do for the next 30 years. So that was kind of a, wake up call for me to reshuffle my life. And what I always was interested in was to understand more why things happen. So why did people have heart attacks? Is it really just the high blood pressure or the cholesterol, or there's something else going on? Why is the blood pressure high in the first place? And so there was something that I knew the psyche has a big influence, our emotions, our thoughts, how we feel on our well-being. I grew up with parents who were countryside doctors. So they, the good old-fashioned ones, they saw the whole human being and not just the little symptoms people came with. And so they taught me a lot about paying attention to how do people look like and feel like and what they talk about and how is the family situation. So that was primed in. And so through a detour in research and molecular biology, I came then to the conclusion that I really need to focus on helping people overcome things like fear and anxiety, which then can cause also really severe health issues. I mean, 70% of doctor visits these days are about fear and anxiety and the aftermath of it. So it's a big challenge that we are all facing. And I don't believe that medication is the only solution.
Right.
So I just chose to find other ways. And I know that our body and our mind can heal itself. And that's what my mission is about.
Yes. I hear this so much. It's such a common thing that's coming up, but it seems like modern medicine is not geared that way. There's not much of an emphasis on that. And so it's reassuring to hear when doctors like yourself understand and see that and kind of just put more of the importance on understanding what's going on with the person rather than just trying to medicate symptoms. So thank you. So tell me about just the research you did and how you came to, and the type of work specifically that you do with fear and anxiety, because the title of this episode is let's talk about how to make peace with fear and anxiety. So I'd love to hear a bit about your journey into this specific work.
Well, my journey started with anxiety also myself. I was certainly someone who had all different kinds of anxiety starting as a child already. And I had OCD, as I said, panic attacks, all the good cousins of anxiety. And certainly I didn't really know how to deal with my own emotions at that time. What I came to really be interested in was this deeper part of the mind, the subconscious mind. And because it's really something, especially as a German, we are living very much in our conscious mind, in our heads, in our rational mind. And we don't really connect to that deeper, irrational mind, which is also the seat of our emotions and our memories. And so I became very fascinated with understanding more how come that a lot of what we are doing on a daily basis is really governed by the subconscious. And we are still not really working with the subconscious. We don't really know how the subconscious does its job, and we don't really know how to influence the subconscious to do a better job. And so that's when I studied in many different ways the subconscious mind and became then really also aware we have a lot inside of us with the subconscious mind that can help us to make fundamental changes in the way we see the world, in the way we are in the world, and in the way we see ourselves. And so after, all these studies, I started working with clients on a certain program and helping them to become more familiar with their subconscious mind, and with that also become more befriending with their emotions. And fear and anxiety is just a big one. because so many people see fear and anxiety as, oh my God, there is a monster in me. There is cancer I want to cut out because it feels so bad. And so we are fighting fear and anxiety. And we are not really understanding what it actually wants to do and what it tries to tell us. And this is what this fear and anxiety solution, which is a book I wrote, and also what Making Peace with Fear and Anxiety is all about. Understanding and then responding, and not just reacting.
Yes, and I want to touch on this idea about subconscious stuff. It's been a common theme in episodes that I've had with other guests. One particular person, Dr. Bruce Lipton, we had a real good conversation about this subconscious, how 5% of what shows up in our life is from the conscious decisions and moves we're making, and 95% of that comes from subconscious programming. And so if we may want to be successful, we may want to be financially free, we may want to be healthy, but 95% of what is actually happening is all subconscious. And so it is so important to, like you say, understand that. And then it's having another conversation with a fabulous woman called Megan Z, and about these fears and anxieties, and that experience that you had as being like a guide when something's not right, when something's not working from you. And like you say, some people try to fight fear, but actually use that as a sign that there's something that I need to look at now and work on or work through. And so can you tell me a bit about how you work with clients to make peace with their fears and anxiety? Like, what are some of the things that you do with people, or people can do?
Well, let me say first that all that you said exactly I agree with. And I do believe there are 3 different levels of anxiety. So the first level is the anxiety we have learned. Subconsciously, we programmed a certain way of thinking about the world and believing into that subconscious matrix. And that makes us then anxious. It makes us anxious when we are feeling criticized. It makes us anxious when we are feeling that, we're not reaching our goals. It makes us anxious when, there is just a lot of people around and feel overwhelmed. I mean, there's a lot of subconscious programming on what's safe and what's not safe. Yeah. So that's the first level. Now, the second level, what, Megan was talking about, is when you have cleared up all of that, then your subconscious is up to date. And then it says, oh, I'm not really reacting from my childhood patterns. Now I can actually really give information that is valid and useful, such as, are you in balance or out of balance? Are you on track or not on track? Are you connected to yourself or not to yourself? Because you're living more outside of yourself. That is where anxiety, that more helpful GPS system, comes in. And that can only work well if you have a program update. That means you have to really clean out your subconscious baggage and really update your beliefs. And then the third level anxiety is the most challenging one. This is when we don't understand anxiety and we are anxious because we're anxious. And this is one of those cycles so many people are in. They're saying, I'm not feeling anxious, but every morning I'm afraid that the anxiety may come back. Oof. And just as I think about the anxiety coming back, I'm already creating more anxiety. And this is a vicious cycle where when people understand the anxiety doesn't come back, when you actually addressed all those root causes, and when you see the anxiety more as an inner guidance system than some enemy that wants to make your life miserable, then that third level of anxiety goes away. And so to answer your question about my work, I really delve into this subconscious matrix. So we are first understanding really, so what is really on a childhood level, and maybe even before, programmed into your subconscious in regards to the emotional baggage, those triggers that just still come up in our life. These can be traumas, these can be confusions, this can be, maybe some teacher was making fun of you in front of the class, and since ever then, the belief that you shouldn't be seen or you shouldn't really stand out is anchored in yourself. But then there is also what a lot of people suffer from, that inner conflict. And this is the giveaway I want to share with your audience, this subconscious conflict between 2 sides inside of us that are constantly battling with each other. And we don't really realize that this is such a trigger for anxiety. So let's say you, for example, I'm not sure if you're anxious about something specific, but let's, as an example, say you would be on the one hand really excited to be out there, be seen, be visible, have a lot of audience. But then there is a part inside of you that feels very scared of getting too much attention and maybe getting criticized and getting judged and wants to rather avoid and sit at home and not deal with it. So you would have
Dr. Friedemann, are you a psychic? Because that is exactly what is going on with me, and that's freaking me out that you've just nailed it so perfectly. Yes, continue
now
with
you
your
know
wisdom.
that you have to watch this video that helps you to resolve that conflict.
I definitely do.
Yeah, and and lots of people can relate to that. But it could be another example, just to put the attention away from you. It's let's say you want to date, and on the one hand, you really are excited about not being alone any longer. But on the other hand, there may be a part of you that every time you are with someone, it says, oh, you're going to only get hurt. It's going to only create trouble. So better get out. And so you go in this, inner push-pull. And this creates a lot of anxiety. So what we have to do is to realize there's not just one anxiety necessary. There may be two parts of us that are creating anxiety with complete different agendas. And be able to really identify this and resolve this. This creates a lot of wholeness inside of you. And this is something that I am, finding more effective at times than, just trying to suppress the anxiety with medication or other ways.
Yeah, I love that. So thank you for offering to give away a spot on the, access to the Resolving Inner Conflicts program that you have. And there's also a special offer for anyone that signs up for that. You'll also get a coupon. It's a, $325 value for this program. So one lucky winner will get access to this. So when you are signing up, please tell us why you want this, because we want it to go to the person that, really wants to benefit from this. But for everyone else, if you don't win it, you can get a coupon to buy the program for $99. And so can you share with us a bit about just like some of the ways in which you help with this program, or what are some things that people can do?
Obviously, there are two things. So the Resolving of Conflict program, Inner Conflict, that's free. You can all do that. All sign up for it.
Oh, great.
That's something that's a giveaway. But then the Breakthrough Fear and Anxiety program is a 6-session video program where you really go exactly through those steps. So you go through identifying the root causes of your anxiety. You go through resolving the emotional baggage with a pattern resolution process where you really understand, these are the patterns of anxiety I repeat over and over again. Avoidance, or achieving, or pleasing, or being overly controlling. These are all anxiety patterns. And so we can resolve those. And then also in that program, you resolve, again, the conflicts on a deeper level, which has a lot to do also with understanding that there are often people entangled to a conflict. The teacher that made you feel bad, that is a person you have to eventually disentangle from on a subconscious level and literally forgive. And not forgiving in a way of, I'm better than you, so I forgive you anyhow. No, it's more about releasing yourself from the patterns and the beliefs that this person imprinted on you. And then the last step in this program is about re-identifying yourself. How do you want to see yourself when you wake up in the morning? As someone who is anxious, conflicted, not good enough, or constantly has to prove herself or compare herself, or as someone who actually feels like, I'm happy with who I am. I'm at peace with my mission. I want to be that person, and I feel every day excited to learn more about what's possible for me. This is when you have this new identity. There is no anxiety about the past anymore. There may be anxiety still coming up in other areas. Anxiety is a normal feeling. I mean, you cannot just say, I'm going to be a robot now and don't want to feel any anxiety. But this is then again, to Megan's point, the anxiety that's helpful, that's guiding you, that's keeping you on track. And to get to that level, you just have to do that work. So that is what the video seminar is about.
Excellent. Thank you for clarifying that. I like with these podcast episodes to give our listeners, practical, actual things that they can do or benefit from, to sort of put some of these ideas and these things that we're talking about into practice, like actual things. Do you have some stuff to share for some, the people that are sort of dealing with that fear and anxiety right now? My case, for example, we were talking about, and it's confusing because we were talking about the conflicts that I have between two things, which is causing anxiety. So whatever you think would be a good thing for people to work on that might be going through
Right.
fear?
Well, first thing is, to make peace with anxiety, you want to make, a little change in your mind around how you want to see anxiety. Is anxiety just this, just horrible energy that you feel attacked by? Or can you imagine anxiety as its root cause, as maybe a smaller self who just is stuck in the past and is still afraid of judgment, criticism, or, still feel misguided? So when I woke up in the middle of the night thinking, oh my God, I want to be 30 years in cardiology, I knew there was a part inside of me that felt trapped, and that felt exactly as trapped as I felt in school when I was little, because there was a lot of pressure and little joy. And so realizing the anxiety is just a part of you that is just needing some reassurance. In that moment, you can look at these thoughts that you have. Will people like me? Will I be able to do this? Will I get, rejected? Am I safe? You can look at these negative thoughts that you have that create anxiety, not just as monkey mind chatter, but really as questions from a part inside of you that wants answers. So don't ignore your negative thoughts, but imagine, okay, there's a little innocent part inside of me that doesn't see how strong I am, that doesn't understand that I am safe and that I can handle life, that still sees me as someone who potentially can get hurt. So I need to have a little chat with this anxious part of me, compassionately and calmly, and answer the question, yes, I'm safe. Yes, I'm good enough. Yes, it's going to be fine. Yes, I make mistakes. That's perfectly fine. I'm learning more from mistakes than from successes. Whatever you want to say. But the point is that as soon as you connect to that perspective to the anxiety, you become the mentor, and you're no longer the victim of your own emotions. And when I work with clients and they just do this little exercise for 2 weeks, every day, 3 thoughts, they're just going to have that approach. Within 2 weeks, 80% of the negative self-talk disappears. They are just 80% calmer, and therefore have also 80% less of those triggering anxiety moments. And that's just fantastic, because you really know self-compassion, which is ultimately what this is about, and being your own mentor is one of the major aspects to healing, because we all have misguided programs in our mind, because as well as our parents meant, or our teachers or our friends meant, they can never really understand completely who we are, because the only person who can do this is ourselves. Right. So we are the only ones who can really teach ourselves this version that we want to be. And that's the job that we have as adults, to really address that from the inside out. And you can do this with your eyes closed. You can do this in writing. You can do this as you're driving. Having a nice little chat with yourself in this regard will really do wonders.
So becoming your own mentor, and let's take, for example, someone that is struggling financially, is worried about making rent, has all these sort of pressures, maybe has family or whatever. When they start to feel anxious in that moment, it would be stepping in as the mentor and just sort of the reassurance, but then also you were saying asking questions. So
no, the questions are asked from the anxiety. The anxiety asks you questions. The anxiety says, will we be able to make rent? Will we be okay? Will we get enough money? Will something positive happen? And so just like you would as a parent talk to your child, you talk to that inner self and say, yes, I'll do my best. Something's going to happen. A door will open up, and, I will feel much more clear about what we need to do when I feel this calmness inside than when I'm feeling anxious. And so you have nothing to lose, and you're not fooling yourself. You're actually getting into a more resourceful state, a resourceful state of feeling more positive and feeling more calm than when you're, all over the place and feeling anxious. So there's definitely only a lot to gain from that.
Yeah. Anxiety is such a funny one. And reading The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle was one of the first books. I experienced a lot of depression. Anxiety is it doesn't come up as frequently, but when it has done, and I've had panic attacks, I was like, whoa, that's really not a pleasant experience. But the thing that just blows my mind is that it just comes from a story that you're telling yourself that is causing all of that panic. And then as soon as you sort of stop that story. And one of the, I sent a newsletter out actually yesterday, and one of the things in there, I included a helpful mantra. And my one is, in these moments of panic and anxiety, just to repeat safe, 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 or calm, depending on what's going, the exact situation, but safe or calm. And then it brings me down to that moment. And because in the moment I realize I am safe, I am fine, everything is calm. What is causing this feeling is my thinking about it. And as soon as I just focus on being here now, those feelings completely dissipate. And so it's such a strange thing that we can create this sickness and such discomfort and suffering just by the mind.
But see, that is one thing where we don't make peace with an anxiety, because I feel we have to go deeper than that. Yeah. Because your feelings that you're describing, thank you, are not a sickness, and there's nothing wrong with you describing it. It's like if you had pain, and say you would every morning wake up with a pain in your mouth. Mm-hmm. Well, at some point you would say, well, maybe I should go to the doctor or to the ear, nose, and throat and just have it check it out. And then they would say, oh yeah, you have a cavity and we have to do something about it. The pain would go away. Mm-hmm. Anxiety is pain. There is some pain inside that says there is a wound that hasn't healed. There is a feeling of not being safe in the world, not fitting in, not belonging, that needs to be addressed. Mm-hmm. Of course, we can always, just like I said, we can always respond to this younger self. We can always say calm, safe, calm, safe. Mm-hmm. But unless we are really addressing the wound underneath, we're going to just put out fires. We are never really coming to that wholeness place. And I think that's what we have to do. You know, the past is not to be forgotten. The past is to be learned from. My anxiety was so much about the confusion of the interpretation of what happened. You know, a lot of what you take from your past, you think, okay, well, this was traumatic, this was bad, I'm going to just forget about it. No, there is something that your subconscious wants answers for. You know, one of the biggest anxieties I had was when my mom was lecturing me for my first D in school. And it was about, for me, a 2-hour event. And I was, you know, from pretty tall to being like 50 centimeters. And it just felt really, almost debilitating.
So how do you work through those? How do you work through that? How would you then advise someone to process that experience, for example, to not feel anxious?
Right. And that is where going into a deeper state, like in a trance state, and going through a guided state where you actually revisit this event and you're able to see this event from an outside perspective, and you're able to look down and see, okay, what really happened? And first of all, you ask yourself, does this child really deserve to be read the riot act for 2 hours just because he had a D? And the answer is, of course, no. Was there really anything wrong with me? Anything that I felt in this moment, I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable, I don't belong? Is that really the truth? So you're just setting the record straight, but then you're going also into the mother, and you're trying to understand, where does she come from? And looking at that, it was very clear she came from her own fear. And the fear was not only about me not amounting to anything, but the fear was then she having to deal with my father's rage, because he was a rageaholic, who then would probably blame her for everything that I was doing wrong. So she was just projecting her own fear onto me. And I, as a very sensitive person, took it on. And then it was inside of me. And from then on, I felt like I had to achieve and overachieve and prove myself. And 2 doctorates later, I was still not happy. I mean, this is something where when you go back and say your truth is not defined by what happened to you. And there is a deeper process that I teach people on how to go to their truth, how to see their truth. You know, under these layers and layers and layers of imprints, what's really the truth of who you are? And that is a very freeing and very empowering way to connect to yourself. And that goes beyond words, beyond any intellectual understanding. This is a pure, deep sensation and understanding of who you are.
And what is that? What is that for you? And is it something that is very similar with people that you work with? Like, what is this underneath all of this? What you are?
Well, it's more the sensation, what you feel when you connect to it. What you connect to cannot really be put into labels. It's too big. You know, it's like, you know, what we cannot really say what love is. We can only say the expressions of love. And so you cannot really say what your truth is, but you can really see, okay, I have all these wonderful expressions of my truth when I let it out, whether it's a truth of compassion or it's a truth of love or the truth of kindness. But when you're connecting to that truth, when you're really fully anchoring yourself in it, you don't see yourself any longer as someone who can be judged or criticized, because you're completely at peace with yourself. And you have a complete and deep trust that you are on your path, on your mission. And the only thing you have to do is to unfold into exactly that what you're meant to be, just like everything else in nature. You know, everything in nature starts with a little seed. I mean, you know, there's a little seed that turns into a tiger or a tree or, you know, an elephant. But there is no question in nature, should I be really a tiger or should I be a little kitty cat? No, I'm going to be a tiger. And just us humans, we are the ones who are questioning and wondering, and we are not unfolding into that what we really mean, and so, or what we are supposed to be. And so that connection to the truth allows you to really feel like, I know I'm on purpose. I know what I need to do. I know who I am. And if you know who you are, even if you cannot put a label on your forehead and say, I am a rock star, I am a doctor, I am. And that I am, that feeling is ultimately where you feel at peace. And then when the anxiety comes up, then when your anxiety says, hey, pay attention, chances are that you forgot it, that you disconnect from yourself. Chances are that then all of a sudden your relationship became more important, your job became more important, being angry at the president became more important. All of those things, you lost touch with yourself. And then the anxiety just nudges you, hey, look inside, pay attention to what's really important, which is your truth. And then you feel very quickly at ease again.
Yes, I have I am in my bedroom, just the words I am, full stop, nothing else, just I am. I was going to get it tattooed on myself for a little while back, but changed my mind. I was like, you don't need it to be tattooed, you just need to remember it. Have you heard of a guy called Prince EA before, or Prince E? He's a spoken word artist, American spoken word artist. He makes really beautiful videos. Have you heard of him perchance?
No.
He has a fabulous video called I Am Not Black, You Are Not White. And it's all about, you know, we are conditioned to give ourselves labels, and, you know, we label each other, and it's just removing these labels and getting to what's underneath. And just for me, awakening has come from just unlearning and detaching from all of these things. I am not British. I was born on some land that people have called Great Britain. I am not British. It's like, it's just unlearning all of these things. I am not an actress. It's a thing that I do. It's not who I am. And just, letting go of these attachments to labels, which is very freeing. Sometimes I do get caught up in just life and the world, and it catches up with me. Yeah, but
that's also the label we want to take off fear and anxiety, because fear and anxiety has a bad label on it. It's a disease, it's an illness, it's a flaw, it's a sickness. We have to get rid of it. So we have to unlabel that too, which is one of the reasons why I left medicine, because there was everything about labels. All is about telling people this is what's wrong with you, and this is who you are, and this is what you have, and it has its merits, but at the same time, it also puts people into some kind of a limiting belief about themselves and to a little imprisonment in their mind. So if we can, and if all your listeners can, just have a much more unlabeled view on fear and anxiety, and being just open to see it when next time it comes as something they are curious about and something they sit with, say, I'm wondering what my anxiety is telling me. Is it something about my childhood? Is it something I did that I need to pay attention to? Is it a sign that I'm not totally identifying myself with my I am, but maybe more identifying myself with what my boss wanted from me, or what my girlfriend or boyfriend just said to me? Just be curious. The anxiety talks to you. It doesn't want to chase you away. The problem is when we are running away from the anxiety, it just screams louder because it wants to reach you.
It's like befriending, the idea of like, I visualize just that you're befriending it and it's trying to be your friend. And when you're running from it, it chases after you shouting, but really it just wants you to sit with it and listen.
Exactly. One of the wonderful, hypnosis sessions I did with a client was about, him struggling with anxiety, but then he's realizing, well, if I have the same attitude to my anxiety as I have to a cat, you know, he had a cat who had diabetes and he had to give shots every day, and he was really having to take, you know, care of this animal. But he came from a place of love. So he didn't say, oh, it's a chore, and oh, now it's again a problem here. No, he always was loving and compassionate. If we can be that loving and compassionate with the anxiety that just wants our attention, you will never have an anxiety problem anymore.
I like it. I'm actually getting hypnotized next week. And so I'm curious that this is, I mean, one of my questions was going to be, how do people work with you? How do you, you know, is it like a one-on-one session? Do you do group sessions? Obviously there's online programs, but it seems like hypnosis is a part of your work too. How, is that right?
Yeah, I do. I mean, this basically it's about the subconscious, and it's about conscious subconscious alignment. And for that, there are wonderful tools like hypnotherapy or timeline therapy or neurolinguistic programming or energy medicine. I mean, there are a lot of things we can do to reach the subconscious, but it's not about the tools. You know, that's one thing that I always felt in medicine. Oh yeah, the medication gonna do the healing. No, the medication doesn't do the healing. The body does the healing, and the medication is simply just helping the body to do the healing. And that's the same with all of those tools. So if you do hypnosis, what really does the healing is your subconscious. And in all of those tools, so you have to be able to, it's not really anything that is done to you, just to put it out there, because a lot of people are afraid of, oh, someone hypnotizes me, so that means they control me. No, it's really about you letting your subconscious be listened to and letting your subconscious also get new information it needs so that it can serve you better. And that's what hypnosis does. That's what NLP does, all these wonderful methods. And, you know, since I have been doing this for over 15 years, such a great admiration for the subconscious and its possibilities that I just feel like if we all would befriend not only anxiety, but really our subconscious, oh my God, the world would be a really different place.
Wow, that would be pretty spectacular. Well, I like that you're doing the work to help people on that track. That's beautiful. Just to wrap up with, what is something that's exciting for you right now that you've got coming up or that you're working on?
Well, exciting is that I'm wrapping up my next book, and it's going to be about empowerment, and it's going to be about survival patterns. You know, so many people live in survival mode, not just with, you know, finances. It's about our mindset, how we are letting these subconscious survival archetypes run our life. And we, you know, a classic example is busyness. I'm very much for stopping busyness in our life. We have busyness as almost like a justification for existence. Like, you know, I'm busy, as if this is something to feel proud about. And so we have to see this is part of our survival mode of always doing something, being productive, showing that we are, you know, making contribution. And that keeps us in a stress level that is unhealthy. So if we would be able just to go in thriving mode, and this is what the book is about, how can you make your survival patterns into thriving patterns? Then again, I think we are way happier and probably also much more on purpose than we are right now.
Yeah, that's fantastic. When is that scheduled to be released?
Well, let's finish it first, probably next year. But you know how the process always goes. You give it to your publisher, and then they take their time.
I'm just starting the process, working on my first book, and I have a lot of even more respect and admiration for people that write books. It's not for me. It's not been an easy feat. Let's just say that. And it's just, you know, you just want so much to get this message across, and it's just you know, finding the way to do that is proved quite challenging, but I'm sure it's fantastic when it happens. And you have other books. Tell us about the other book. You mentioned it briefly.
There is the Fear and Anxiety Solution. And the Fear and Anxiety Solution is a step-by-step process that actually makes you acquainted with your subconscious, and it helps you to go already into those pattern resolution processes and all that, what I'm describing. The only thing is that, you know, it gives you really the time to go through it, to learn it. And sometimes it's hard. You know, some people, I wrote the book really as an alternative to having the sessions or doing the seminars, just for people to have a way to have tools. As I said at the beginning, we don't know how to deal with emotions. I think mindfulness, for example, is a wonderful, wonderful way, but it doesn't necessarily help your subconscious to resolve the past. It makes you feel more at ease with the present, but it doesn't help your subconscious to reprogram its thinking. And I think, just helping your subconscious more to become the ally it's meant to be. For that, we need to have tools. We need to learn the language of the subconscious. We need to know what does the subconscious care about and what does it not care about. And this is described in the book. And I think it has been very helpful for many people. And I'm sure some of your listeners may also benefit from it.
Fabulous. So we'll have a link to your website where they can find all sorts of information about that, as well as the sign up link to the Breakthrough Empowerment Program. Thank you so much for joining me today. This has been fabulous. Great topic, as always, to talk about. Thanks again.
Thank you very much. It was real fun.
My pleasure. And I'll see you all next week. Bye.